What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Snelling, and welcome to my Watch Diary. I'm excited to be here with you this weekend. Action-packed show here today. So I had to go it alone. I don't have time for any of Brando's shenanigans. If you want to check them out on the Avengers rewatch video / podcast we did, you can hear him talk about Marvel there. But I am going to go it alone, talking about Moon Knight, talking about Doctor Strange, and then we're going to rank the entire MCU. So it's going to be a huge, huge show today. I actually don't even have much of like a live diary here at the top because it was going to be how me and Brando met. That was the story that I was going to open the show with. Me and Brando were going to talk about how we met so you could get more introduced to him. A lot of people that have been here since the Sight and Sound era know him already, and he was a staple to our podcast, and he's one of my longest friends, which is weird too. And I wish you could have heard about how we met and how our paths crossed, because it's very unsuspecting and mysterious, but that'll just have to wait till next time. But I'll be excited for you all to get to know Brando a little bit more and how we know each other and how we came to be, if you will, how we came to be on this podcast. So I'm excited for that, but that'll have to happen at another time. Thank you so much in general for just supporting what we're doing here on the Watch Diary podcast and also the Rewatch Ryan YouTube channel. It's really exciting for me. When I go to look at the YouTube channel right now, it looks like sort of how I've always dreamed my content looking, honestly. And it also feels good to do it like when I'm more relaxed about it. I'm kind of surprised at how much content I've put out in the past 3 weeks without much stress or anxiety. And I say that because when we were doing Sight and Sound, I felt like I had to kick myself to get an idea going, force myself to do content sometimes. And even like with Jay, and I love Jay, and Jay did so much for the YouTube channel, and Jay like made a lot of videos on his own, but I was always self-conscious about not doing enough with him, or him not doing enough with me, and because, he just wanted to do stuff for music, and that was great for the YouTube channel for sure, and great for him especially, but I always felt left out a little bit because I don't know how to talk about music, and I'm not really interested in music the way that he is, and he never needed me, but I always felt like I needed, and I still do, whether it's Jay or not, I always feel like I do better bouncing off of people. And so my whole thing has just kind of been getting somebody to just kind of like ride along with me and, definitely have fun and definitely talk, and bounce ideas off each other. But, yeah, I mean, I guess that's been the struggle, and that's when I had to kind of learn how to do solo material and not depend on other people. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds here. I figured out how to do things on my own and crank out a lot of content. And I also get to do stuff with Brando, which is really, really exciting. And I think it's great for you. I think it's best for the audience that Brando is on this channel. So I'm excited. Please, 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 if you're stumbling upon this on YouTube, subscribe so you can see and get excited with me about everything we have going on here on Rewatch Ryan and Watch Diary. If you're listening to the Watch Diary podcast, there are hundreds more people that listen to the podcasts than watch the videos on the YouTube channel. And I understand that. Podcast has been around a lot longer than the YouTube channel has. But if you're listening to this on audio, the description has the YouTube link. So please go find Rewatch Ryan on the YouTube channel. You'll find this entire podcast in video form, but you also will have it in segmented videos, which is really nice. So what we're going to do today, we're going to review Moon Knight. We're going to do a Doctor Strange non-spoiler review. We're going to do an every movie ever ranking the entire MCU. Once again, I did it a couple of months ago after Spider-Man No Way Home. I figured right after Moon Knight, right after Doctor Strange 2, it's time to do it again. And I'd just like to have a video of it, And Doctor Strange 2 spoilers will be at the very end of this podcast. So you can sit through everything and avoid the spoilers if you want to. So we're going to do every movie ever first and then Doctor Strange spoilers. So it's going to be action packed and we might as well get right into it. Let me take a drink of my trusty Trenta cold brew. I guess one thing I can say real quick, since you asked, I'm excited because in less than a month, I will be going to Kentucky, where I'm from. And I get to visit my family for a week, and I'm really excited to go because it should be nice and sunny, and we'll get to go out onto the river on the boat, and I'll get to see my grandmother and my niece and my nephews, and of course my mom and my sisters, and just really excited about that. As far as content goes, I'll probably just pre-record everything and it'll be released and you guys won't even know that I'm on vacation necessarily. I don't think it'll be that different. I don't think there's anything really coming out. I might as well just check the schedule real quick while I'm looking at the calendar. That's what I'll do. I'll read off what I have planned for the calendar real quick. So this coming week, this coming week, I have a never before seen episode with Brando talking about the Fifth Element. And it's a never before seen because I have never seen the Fifth Element up until yesterday. So we are definitely ready to podcast about that. Next week, the 13th, I don't think there's a big release. So I might talk about Ambulance, which I think I saw was on Fandango or Vudu, on Vudu, but I'm not sure if it's like an early access, like $20 one, because if it is, I'm not doing that. I might watch The Outfit, that Mark Rylance movie that people are talking about. I can't remember if X is available on streaming yet. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, I'm logged in. I might as well just look real quick at all this. It looks like X is available, but it is not available to rent. So I'll figure it out. But basically, just so you know, next week it'll probably be a movie that I need to, I just need to catch up on. I don't feel like I need to catch up on Ambulance, but it could definitely be something to talk about. And I'll watch anything that Isaac Gonzalez is in, just for her. So we'll see. Next week, not a big release, but I'll figure something out. Yeah. And then let's see, never before seen Fifth Element. And a never before seen I'm really excited about is Insomnia by Christopher Nolan. It is the only Christopher Nolan movie I have never seen. So I'm really excited about that. Alien 3 has a 30th anniversary. I've never seen that. We have a rewatch of Lost World. You know what? This is what I want to bring up. Go to YouTube right now. There is a raw reaction, straight out of the theater reaction, of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness with myself and my roommate, my best bud. You've heard me talk about him before, Ernesto. So we talked about that last night. Another thing that happened, I got a new mic. I got another mic, and he is going to be able to do podcasts and some videos with me. And I'm really, really excited. He'll be sitting right here beside me. We have tickets, early access tickets, to see Top Gun Maverick. And I'm really excited because it comes out like literally a couple of days before I leave to go to Kentucky. So I'll have that review out in a timely fashion, and then I can take my week vacation off. But anyway, the Ernesto of it all. I have no idea how he's going to feel about going to see Top Gun Maverick with me, but he is going with me for sure. He's never seen Top Gun, so we will do a never before seen of Top Gun with my roommate, with Ernesto, and I'm really, really excited. That's another thing too. If I get to see Top Gun and get that out of the way, then I have more time to do content surrounding Stranger Things 4 and Obi-Wan, because that comes out on the 27th, the same as Top Gun Maverick. So getting to see that early is going to help out a lot with the content, and everything else will be done in a timely fashion. But anyway, there's a couple of other things that are fun, and yeah, I'm really excited. So just be on the lookout for that, and I'll probably post more about that If you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rewatch Ryan, I'll kind of post scheduling stuff. I'll start doing that anyway. So yeah, there's that. All right, guys, let's talk about Moon Knight. I don't really have a non-spoiler or spoiler label for this because I can talk about this without ruining anything, but also it's television and it's been out for a couple of days, so you're more likely to have seen all of this than you are Doctor Strange 2 at this point in time. So I'm just going to freely talk about it, but there's not really a whole lot to spoil, I don't guess. Moon Knight is a show that I was very excited to watch. And there was a lot of, I guess there were a lot of things that I was expecting that just like weren't going to happen because I was expecting them out of ignorance, I guess, or expecting them based on what I had heard about certain iterations of the character. But really, as far as I can tell, based on some Moon Knight experts, this show really is like an entirely different iteration while also drawing from several iterations. So I feel like it's brand new to even diehard Moon Knight fans, just like it was for me, who really didn't know much about this character. I mean, everything I knew about it was hearsay, and that's kind of like where I'm at with the MCU in general. I mean, the concepts and the characters and the things that they're introducing in Phase 4, for the most part, entirely are new to me. So it's exciting in that way, and I don't really have a whole lot of expectations unless we're going into a movie like Spider-Man or even like Doctor Strange 2, because you can just hope for things in titles like that more than you can in like Moon Knight, for example. So I knew that Moon Knight, when it was created, was sort of a Batman ripoff. So seeing him in action in the trailers, open up his cape, the night sky, taking some bad guys out, like that's the kind of thing that I wanted to see. And Oscar Isaac, of course, I think he's one of the greatest actors of our generation. I've said that many times as well. And having him in a television series, having the promise of him maybe in other Marvel titles, I mean, all of it, what wasn't there to love, you know? The other thing too, based on the trailer, is it felt like so many television series that I've grown to love. And even episode by episode, I was reminded of TV shows that I connect to that have this unreliable narrator at the center. It just so happens to be a superhero and have superpowers, but this unreliable narrator at the center. He has mental illness. He has dissociative identity disorder. It's a whole what's real, what's not. Is he actually in this mental institution? Is he actually a superhero? All of those questions, that idea, those motifs, those themes are almost like wrapped in my favorite like TV show's DNA as well. Like Mr. Robart, did that make sense? Mr. Robart? I'm all over the place. It's early. I haven't had enough cold brew. The show reminded me of The Leftovers. It reminded me of Mr. Robot. It reminded me of Fight Club. It reminded me of Batman-esque. Like, there was a lot of Ryan Snelling wrapped up in this series. So what I will say is, and I think this is important to know, I did not watch the 5th episode the week that it came out. So I watched episodes 5 and 6 a day after 6 came out. So I was basically late to the game the last 2 weeks that the show aired. I sat down in front of my TV Tuesday night at 9 p.m. or whenever it was, my time, midnight, whatever it was, midnight, yeah, and watched the first 3 episodes. I think I watched the 4th one the next day, and then the 5th one and 6th one I waited. And I think that's important to mention because it kind of just, I feel like if you know my behavior while I'm watching the show, you can kind of know how I start to feel about the show. Let's start with the biggest issue, I think, hands down, is the structuring and the pacing. 100%. So this series structure is very reminiscent as to how they handled WandaVision, except even WandaVision had 3 more episodes, I believe. WandaVision was 9 episodes, right? But basically what we have here, and the most obvious parallel, is the second to last episode. So episode 5 for Moon Knight, episode 8 for WandaVision. Those are the true revealing character studies that were super revealing, super emotional. All the backstory is fitting in that episode, and for the most part, it like really works. Like, if I was kind of wavering on Moon Knight, episode 5 of Moon Knight really got me into it. But also at the same time, it does obviously have the same structure as WandaVision. And the episode is kind of built the same. It's really a walk down memory lane and exploring the mind of someone who has gone through so much trauma that they've compartmentalized a lot of their history, a lot of their backstory. I mean, it's kind of the exact same thing that we did with Wanda, except one is being led by a witch and the other is being led through the Egyptian afterlife. And but it works, and it's really well done. And the acting of Oscar Isaac, what? There's a fly. And the acting from Oscar Isaac and company, it's incredible, and it's so well done. And I felt like maybe the past couple of weeks at that certain point, I was like kind of out on Moon Knight. Maybe I haven't been giving it the attention it deserved, and I kind of felt bad until I got to episode 6. And mind you, I had just rewatched the end of WandaVision leading up into the Multiverse of Madness. So basically, I rewatched the last 2 episodes of WandaVision with the last 2 episodes of Moon Knight in like the same 24-hour time frame. But again, they suffer from the same issue. Is the finale is the worst episode. It is so rushed. It is so gummy. And I say that because the fight scenes look so... The fight scenes look better in Moon Knight, but they look so gummy in WandaVision, and it's just this like third act, I don't know, CGI fest that you've come to expect from these shows. And I don't know when they plan on improving upon it, but it kind of sucks that the issue that the very first series had is the same issue that the 5th series had at this point. And that was a little disappointing, but the action was more well done. You know, more hand-to-hand combat, and a couple of more surprises. And then it was like having the backdrop of Egyptian gods fighting was a lot more like fun and interesting than watching 2 visions fight each other and also just kind of talk with each other. So it did have things, it did have pros, it did have cons, but it's also just kind of the same thing that I've already know that I'm not really that into. So unfortunately, it does suffer from that. But when you zoom out and look at the entire thing, I think we have one of the best Disney Plus series here. I really do. When it comes to just like sort of having the balls to explore certain concepts, I think the filmmaking for the most part was actually better. I think it had more of an identity when it didn't have to rely on CGI. I thought the CGI for the most part in the show was pretty bad. I don't know that I ever really appreciated how Moon Knight ever looked. I think you could tell at the very like final couple of scenes in Moon Knight in general, I think I saw a practical suit, but every other time I honestly despised seeing the Moon Knight suit on screen. Mr. Knight looked pretty good, because you could tell that was really there for the most part. But when you saw Moon Knight, the summon the suit thing, I can get over the CGI of the bandages wrapping around him. I expect you to cut to a practical suit right after that, but they don't. This is what Robert Downey Jr. and a lot of the other cast members go through. Even our Spider-Man has a fully CGI suit, but it is not nearly as distracting as this was in particular. And I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's because the suit was like all white and it just like didn't quite match up with all the lighting, or it wasn't hidden as well because it did just look like one blob of a thing. Because I mean, when you look at Spider-Man, you can tell that it looks gummy, but also there's texture to his suit. There's shots of him wearing it practically, and it's just like hidden better like that. But Moon Knight being entirely digital all the time, I thought it looked like shit. It's really, really annoying to me. I even tweeted right after the premiere episode when they do the car chase around the mountain. I just thought it looked so bad. And I just don't think there's any excuse for it. I really don't. Marvel's the most powerful, the greatest movie studio in the world. And I don't know, it's just, I guess it's this idea that we have to fit a schedule and not everything is given enough time or given as much time as it should get. But when I tweeted that out after the first episode, I got some pushback. A couple of people replied to me, acting like I was crazy and I was out of my mind. The show, it never got better. It never got better. There's a couple things that I can forgive, like when we see Khonshu, like that kind of stuff doesn't bother me as much because I mean, you're just gonna have to digitize that. But I mean, the Moon Knight suit, I mean, I was never convinced, really. I thought it was so fake looking, so that was unfortunate. But I do think there are a couple of moments throughout while we're exploring his mindset and while we're exploring the afterlife. There's a lot of things that are sort of discombobulated and I'm not quite sure about, but I've also like come to expect that whenever we handle these types of concepts. And I'm sure that I can read a Reddit thread, or I'm sure the director will come out and speak about this, and clear some things up here very soon if he hasn't done it already. I haven't done any sort of reading yet, because as soon as I finished the finale, I had to focus on Doctor Strange 2. But I've come to expect that when it comes to just these mind-melting concepts. And so that's fine with me. But what we have here is, I think, one of the greatest performances from Oscar Isaac. Ethan Hawke crushed it too. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce her name right, but May Calamawy, who plays Layla, I thought she was fantastic as well. Everybody was on point, so I have no complaints with the casting or the acting. I hope that we see Layla in other things, and they sort of like they promise something big for her, I think, towards the end of the series, and it's something that really got me excited, but I don't know when I'm ever going to see her again. Because as the MCU grows and we kind of get a whole bunch of different little characters that have sort of like super basic power sets, like Black Knight, for example, Kit Harington from Eternals. Like, where does he fit in? Is he going to fit in with Blade? Are we going to see Layla? Are we going to see Moon Knight with Blade? And that's just going to be like a new corner of the MCU? I don't know, but I hope that's the case, because I really like Layla, and I love their chemistry together as well. Ethan Hawke, great villain. I really appreciated him as well, and I just thought he did a great job. Overall, the structure and honestly the Disney Plus of it all tainted what could have been an absolutely amazing entry into the MCU. But I will say, and we'll talk about the rankings here shortly, I do believe it's in the upper tier of Disney Plus series when you consider everything else that it had going for it. So Moon Knight, overall, it was really good, and I really liked it. I can't wait to see more from this character. They have work to do in terms of the visuals, but I think they'll figure it out, and the best is yet to come from Moon Knight. So we'll see. Excuse me. Hopefully we're not done. And I would love to see some Emmy recognition for Mr. Oscar Isaac. So there's that. One of the better Disney Plus Marvel series for sure. Find out where it's ranked on every movie ever. Okay. So this is what you guys have been waiting for. I get it. Whatever, Moon Knight. Just kidding. Doctor Strange 2. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It came out last night. I'm recording this on Friday. It's been about 24 hours. Oh, no. Why is my math bad? It's been almost 12 hours since I saw the movie for the first and only time. All right, let's get an update as to what the Rotten Tomatoes score is real quick. It's not the number one thing being talked about on IMDb, by the way. That's still Moon Knight. I don't know how they or when they update that kind of stuff, but it says, yeah, on the popularity arrow thing on IMDb, it's number 6. That's kind of crazy. The Batman and Northman, and yeah, anyway, I think that's outdated, but it's okay. It doesn't really matter because it's IMDb. But on Rotten Tomatoes, at the time that I'm recording this, it is 77% tomato meter, 89% audience score. And of course, it's obviously too early to tell when it comes to the box office numbers, because it technically hasn't even been out one full day yet at the time of this recording. I did film a raw reaction with Ernesto. Like I said, please check it out on the YouTube channel, exclusively on the YouTube channel. That was really fun. That's non-spoiler. as well, just so you know. And again, just to remind you, this is a non-spoiler portion. The spoiler portion will be in another video, and it will be at the end of this podcast after I rank the entire MCU. So, guys, let me start with the theater experience. It's a good place to start because I don't think it really changes how I feel about the movie, but it is important when it comes to understanding the environment that I was in. I, like so many of other movie experiences, and even with No Way Home, I was in the same theater that I saw No Way Home in, and I was with the same people that I saw No Way Home, my group of friends. And so that's important to mention. I did not see this in the very first showing. There was like a 6:30 showing and a 9:30 showing. I saw it the 9:30 showing, so that all of my friends could go. I don't like doing that because I don't want to risk anything being spoiled for me. And if you had just asked me, hey, what's going to have the better crowd? If you had to rank crowds, it would be the earlier showing. But, I mean, it's opening night, so I really don't think it's going to be that different. 9:30 is probably going to feel exactly like a 6:30, right? Wrong. So, we had fine seats, good seats. I was excited, went into it, just thrilled to death. But overall, the theater experience was bad. It was probably the worst that I can think of, worst theater experience I've ever had in a Marvel movie. Couple of reasons. The group that I was with, and I'm also thinking about like what in the movie could have caused this, and I'm not going to blame the movie for this because ultimately it's just the people and how they reacted. But I guess as I was watching the movie, it wasn't as like rousing, I don't think, as a No Way Home was. I mean, at No Way Home, you're cheering in the first 5 minutes. You're cheering, you're excited when you see Charlie Cox appear. In this movie, it doesn't really have that sort of DNA in it, which is fine. There's definitely twists and turns, there's shocks, there's unexpected characters, all that kind of stuff was there, but it's not at the same pace, and it just didn't have to be like that, and that's fine. It's not a complaint. But the I guess what I'm saying is the crowd wasn't as connected as it would have been like during Spider-Man No Way Home. We weren't all on the same page, if that makes sense. And you could kind of tell. But the way that the people behaved too, like it wasn't like the most annoying. There were no like crying babies. There were no like groups of teenagers that were just being shitty and throwing popcorn at each other. No, this came down to people, and I've talked about this before, and it's so annoying to me, and there's nothing I can do about it. But it really bothers me when people react to things on screen and I don't understand their reaction. Like when something like so like just normal or something that's supposed to be serious happens, and I guess for whatever reason it doesn't translate to said person that it's like serious or just like not really a thing, and it causes them to like just laugh out loud. And it's not even like the audience laughs, but I don't get it. It's like a couple of people over here laughed at this one thing, and I'm just like, wait, it's not funny. Like, what? Like, it's weird. Even when there's like super serious, like dramatic moments that I'm invested in and emotionally, or I hear someone laugh because I guess they don't see it that way, and it just really bothers me. And again, not laughing to make fun of the movie. It's just like for whatever reason the moment doesn't register for 5% of the people in the theater, and because they have an outward reaction, it ruins it. So that was annoying. Also, the people who I sat in the middle of my group, but there was Ernesto on my right, and then after Ernesto there was a line of fucking dorks. Just dorks, like movie, like dorks that had to, like, they come up with their own movie memes that they think are clever. Like it was like that type of person. So they just wanted to like fire off random like jokes and quips and be the. It was like that meme where the meme where that guy is like trying to like talk to that girl in the club and he thinks he's telling her the most interesting thing, but she really is just like standing there like, get the fuck away from me. That was me. And those were the guys to my right were that guy. who were just literally bothering and tainting the entire experience. There was one one thing that I can't stand. This is just a general internet speak and movie fandom speak and seeing movie content. For whatever reason, I can't stand posts on Instagram celebrating movies where it's like a picture of the actor, like on the Graham Norton show, and like Andrew Garfield or something, and then it says, when Peter Parker does this. Or it's like, or a new trailer for, here's a better example. A trailer for the next like Andrew Garfield show, Under the Banner of Heaven, I think is that FX show. And it'll be like a meme or like a picture of Andrew Garfield in a completely different thing. And it'll be like when Peter Parker visits Aunt May's grave. Like it's like a somber picture of Andrew Garfield and it says when Peter Parker visits Aunt. It's like, that's it, he's not Peter Parker. He's Andrew Garfield. Get excited for this project and quit tying it back to Spider-Man. Like, I can't stand posts like that. They're just not funny or creative. Or like if it's like Hugh Jackman at a Christmas party with Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's like when Wolverine meets Mysterio. That's nothing. It makes no sense. It's nothing. It's not funny. It's not clever. The people who come up with those kind of posts, I'm spitting. I'm so passionate about this. The people who come up with those posts and make those posts were the guys sitting next to me in the row. So certain things would happen on screen with actors and they'd like make jokes about the actor that didn't really have to do with this movie. And it was really fucking annoying to me. Sorry, I just had to get that out there. Because people like that drive me crazy. They're just fucking dorks. And I could be mean. And I have something I want to say, but it's too mean-spirited. And I don't want to be mean. But it was just a group of kind of people. And I wish I could further illustrate what exactly this group... Anyway, I'll move on. This group... I'll move on. But that was really frustrating. So there was that. So Doctor Strange 2... The tone of this movie is sort of all over the place. And I'm fine with the movie starting out as something and becoming something else, because this is the movie where we introduce ourselves to one of the biggest concepts yet in the MCU. The multiverse is finally here, guys. Or is it? The Multiverse of Madness is here. And what I will say to start off, because we want to talk about expectations, it doesn't bother me, and without any spoilers, most of the stuff that people came up with online just didn't happen. The things that we were told in the marketing obviously do happen. So Professor X, he's in this movie. Captain Carter is in this movie. Did they confirm who that powered up being is? But the powered up being in the trailer is not Tom Cruise's Iron Man. So the marketing is true in that way. And so those aren't spoilers. But when it comes to expectations, this wasn't Spider-Man No Way Home. In the sense that we didn't have the thing that we knew all along was going to happen that they were denying. So it just wasn't the case. It didn't operate that way, and it's totally fine. But the tone of it was all over the place, in the sense that it felt like sort of a Frankenstein's monster of a movie. It did feel like it was sort of plagued by the reshoots, plagued by rewrites. I almost said rewatch, I think. Rewrites that Sam Raimi's talked a little bit about in the press. It did feel like it didn't fit together nearly as well as they originally intended to, which is really unfortunate, because when it comes to expectations, I think the expectation that I had, more importantly, is that this movie was going to be, to use a Marvel term, a Nexus event film. And in a way it was, but I thought it was going to be more of an Avengers film, in the sense that it was going to be this like pivotal point. I knew that Phase 5 didn't begin after Multiverse of Madness, but I thought it was sort of going to operate the way that the Avengers movies did in the Infinity Saga, where it's like this pivotal moment, but it also is what all of the movies prior to it were leading to. And it's not the case, and it's okay to go on and just get that out of your head, because it's really not that way at all. Um, we got lead up in the sense that the concept of the multiverse has been mentioned and talked about in other projects, but this really was a movie about Doctor Strange, and it was a movie about Wanda, and the plot of it and the narrative of it is like surprisingly simple, and it wasn't even as like complex and as rich as like even a Captain America Civil War. Maybe that's the better comparison. I shouldn't say that I thought it was going to be an Avengers movie, because that's not what I really meant. But I thought it was going to have more in common with like Captain America Civil War, where the implications from other movies would absolutely affect this, and this would be a saga changing event for the MCU. And I guess on paper, the multiverse is like that, but I didn't feel it based on the stakes of it and based on how they exercise the multiverse. And I guess the best way to compare it, I feel like the multiverse was more interesting in Spider-Man No Way Home and even in Loki. Um yeah, the multiverse isn't handled in the way that like Shield like secretly being Hydra the whole time, and like that sort of moment never really happens. Shield becoming Hydra, and now it recontextualized everything we know about the MCU. This movie isn't like that, and it's okay. But I also was. It's okay that it wasn't that big in terms of the MCU, but at the same time, I was disappointed at how uninteresting it was in its own movie. And I just feel like this was promised to us as the multiversal event, but the multiverse was arguably handled better in just other things. Even What If, even the Doctor Strange episode of What If was a little bit more interesting than this. But it's okay, because in front of that, at the front of it all, is Wanda Maximoff. She continues, and we recapped WandaVision on this podcast and on this YouTube channel at one point. She continues to be one of the most fascinating characters in the entire MCU. She went from just being, might as well have been just a filler character in Age of Ultron, for me anyway, to being one of my favorite actor-character combinations in the MCU, period. Her through line is fascinating. One of the best through lines, right up there with Tony Stark and right up there with Captain America. Their arcs over this entire saga are incredible and so interesting. And Wanda is the thing that this movie had going for it the most. And I feel like she kept this movie together better than anybody, better than the multiversal concept. She steals the movie from Doctor Strange 100%. Doctor Strange, not gonna lie, this is maybe the most uninteresting he's ever been. And that's important to mention, because if, by Kevin Feige's words, this movie operates as a sequel to Infinity War and Endgame and Doctor Strange, this is the least interesting Doctor Strange has ever been, hands down. No contest. And Wanda just stole the movie from him, but also in a good way for her, but in a bad way for him. And that's unfortunate, because there were also, multiple versions of Doctor Strange, and I thought we were really going to peer into his psyche, and we do, but it's really surface level, and it's not nearly enough. It's the most passive. It's the most that Doctor Strange has ever been like a witness to his own story, which is weird, because you should feel that way about his origin story, where he's learning everything there is to know about magic and the mystic arts. But I mean, he was at least more active, but he was the most passive in this movie, I felt like, and uninteresting. So that was really unfortunate for me. I thought the multiversal aspect and the variants were gonna keep them interesting, but it wasn't really the case, unfortunately. Like I said, I think the multiverse, unfortunately, is just more interesting in in other projects. Doctor Strange is more interesting in other projects. So it just unfortunately is glaringly not as good as a lot of things in the MCU, and that's unfortunate. So again, the Rotten Tomatoes 77%. I think when I looked at it last night going into the theater, it was like 83, 84, something like that. I'm actually surprised that it's still as high as 77. Um, this movie is honestly low tier Marvel for me. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of greatness to it, um, but a lot of it was mid to low tier. I can't not talk about Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi in general is not a he's he's not my guy. Like he's just like his style. I appreciate it a lot. I love his story. I love where he comes from, his creativity, his DIY filmmaking. All that's really cool. But from the gate with Evil Dead, and I've seen parts of Evil Dead, I've seen parts of Army of Darkness, I've seen parts of Evil Dead 2, and I know enough about his tone, and I've seen enough of his other movies that I know he's just really not my thing. And so I was kind of curious if that would come through. There's a couple of moments that I'm kind of like, oh, that's like the Sam Raimi that I just don't appreciate. But more often than not, I appreciated a lot of what he brought to this movie visually. I mean, this movie has more style and authorship than most Marvel movies that get shit out in this assembly line. I told Nesto, I said it in my raw reaction. After seeing Multiverse of Madness, you could literally convince me that Spider-Man No Way Home was directed by AI based on what Sam Raimi was able to do with this movie. And I appreciate that so much. The cinematography, his techniques, his creativity with the camera, everything was just light years beyond what a lot of Marvel movies can do. And I really, really loved it. I just wish everything else in front of the camera sort of matched up to it. There were a couple of horror moments that I like couldn't believe were happening. The way that they got away with portraying gore, the way that they got away with portraying horror, I thought was awesome. It really, really was. And I really appreciate it for that. So there's two big takeaways is that Sam Raimi actually pulled off his directing stylings, really shined, and Wanda Maximoff came through. Those were the two highlights, and everything else was just sort of mid to low tier for me. And there's a couple of surprises that I can't talk about. It'll have to wait for the spoiler discussion. I'll just say Illuminati. I will talk about the Illuminati and everything Illuminati and everything post-credit scenes in the spoiler section. So my neat little accolades that I have that I love, just so you can get a picture or get a, in your mind where I'm at with this movie. It's not better than Sam Raimi's Spider-Man or Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. It is not better than Doctor Strange, the original. A Marvel movie that I'm surprised that I like more than this, I think I would put the original Thor over this movie. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, conceptually, I think maybe WandaVision was more compelling. And what else can I say about it? It was my worst theater experience. Like I said, I don't really hold that against the movie at all, actually. But I have to tell you about it so that you know where my mindset was. But yeah, I'll leave it there. This movie is fine at best. It doesn't have me nearly as excited as Spider-Man No Way Home did, and nearly as excited as I wanted to be or thought I was gonna be. The only thing on my mind now is Thor: Love and Thunder. Honestly, I'm sure Doctor Strange is there's gonna be a ton of conversation around it. Conversation that I can't have until the spoiler portion of this review. So that's where I'm at right now with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Stay tuned for the spoiler discussion. All right, guys, let's do every movie ever. We're going to rank the entire MCU, including the Disney Plus shows. I did this not too long ago on the Watch Diary podcast feed, but this is the first video, and I'm excited. I don't know exactly how these videos work when I have Letterboxd pulled up. It takes some time and a little bit of thought. I'm actually gonna like rush through this compared to the podcast that I did, which was like an hour and 45 minutes, I think. But I will give you a few of my rules and my thoughts as to how I rank this before going into it, just so you can sort of know where my mindset is. But I will definitely talk about this as I go along. It's just not going to be an hour and 45 minutes because you have other things to do, and so do I. But yeah, let's do this. So just so you know, I do this on Letterboxd, and Letterboxd, as far as I know, doesn't have What If on there. There's like a million things titled What If, and I just can't find it, but also there's another season coming out, so it makes sense. So I'm just going to tell you where What If is on my list. When I ranked this the first time, I had a point system. So there was a lot of logic behind it. It was a real thought exercise. I had to juggle my heart versus my mind. I tried to be subjective, of course, because it's my list, but I also tried to be objective. And I do think that there are objective truths when it comes to ranking these types of movies. 100%. So, first of all, just in general, when I think about what makes an MCU movie great, I think about its use of characters, because I think that's most important in the MCU, characters. You know, the names of these movies are about the characters, and a lot of the times they sideline villains for the characters, so that's just how it works. And it's what we've come to know and expect by the MCU. So, another thing that Marvel has going for it is typically when they combine a lot of characters together, somehow it always ends up working out. So the ensemble movies shoot right to the top. When Thor meets Hulk, somehow it's automatically better than when Thor doesn't have Hulk, like that kind of thing. And I feel like that's a general law when it comes to the MCU, maybe with one exception. And because this movie is out, because I've already put out 2 non-spoiler Doctor Strange reviews, and because I talked about Moon Knight on this episode of the podcast and in another video, I will talk about those, but without spoilers. This list is coming out the exact same week that Moon Knight finished and Doctor Strange 2 came out, so I'm going to talk about them, but without spoilers, so you're safe. But yeah, Doctor Strange might have broken that multiple character rule, but that's okay. We'll figure it out together. So when I originally did this, I did a lot of it off air. And then I just sort of explained the tiers that I put them through. So basically what I did to calculate these rankings is I ranked phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 on its own. And the winner of each phase got, depending on how many movies were in the ranking, the most points. So if it's like phase 5 and there's phase 5. If it's phase 1 and there's 5 movies, then the winner of that gets 5 points and the loser got no points. And so then I would take the same movies, but rank them based on trilogies. So the Iron Man trilogy, the winner of that trilogy gets 2 points, and then the bottom one got 0 points. So basically I did a whole bunch of that. And the upper tier with the most points, if there were 5 movies that had 5 points, those were the top 5, right? So I, 1 through 28 or wherever we are now, that's how I organized it. And it seemed to work out. There were a couple of times where I overrode myself because like Black Widow was like way too high or way too low or something, and I had to like push it up a little bit. So there were a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, I really had the backbone of my list figured out. I'm not going to go about that this time. That list still exists on Letterboxd, by the way. So if you go to letterboxd.com/rewatchryan, you can see that initial list, but it's going to change now that some time has passed, and now that I've thought more about No Way Home, now that I've thought more about, now that I've included Moon Knight and Doctor Strange 2. So it might be a little bit different, but for the most part, a lot of the work I've done for this list has already been done. So this time, going into this, and I'll just go on and pull this up, the backbone of this list, I just decided why not start with the Disney Plus series. And this is my ranking of the Disney Plus series. WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Moon Knight, Loki, and Hawkeye. And I just finished talking about Moon Knight. I talked about how it was upper tier, But as I was situating this list, I realized that my involvement in Falcon and Winter Soldier far outweighed my involvement in Moon Knight. You know, there were a couple of weeks where I kind of slacked on watching Moon Knight, and I kind of thought that, you know, I was kind of anticipating a downward trend. I was surprised by the 5th episode, but I was consistently more involved with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And by design, I just feel like that was more my thing, based on what I love about the MCU. So WandaVision, I feel like, except for the finale, transcends television, and it's a celebration of television, but it also sort of like transcends everything else. So yeah, so that's my ranking right now. You have WandaVision, Falcon, Moon Knight, Loki, and Hawkeye. Perfect. So that's where we're going to start. That's the backbone of it all. So now, can you still see what I'm doing? I think you can. Let me situate this a little bit better so I can still see everything. And all right, so now what we're going to do is start with the Iron Man movies. My ranking of Iron Man is Iron Man 1, it is Iron Man 3, and Iron Man 2. And that really never wavers for me. And don't worry, this is not, I have to move them around, don't worry. This really like never wavers. It really doesn't. I feel pretty good about that. Iron Man is better than everything on this list so far. Iron Man 3, I feel like Iron Man 3 is comfortable between Loki and Hawkeye because I'm sort of indifferent about all three projects. But I think Iron Man 3, over time, first of all, the twist, I wasn't really ever sure that that twist was a big deal. Like, a big enough deal for people to get pissed off about it. Like, it was just, it was fine. Like, I kind of got over that years ago, and a lot of the fandom hasn't already, and it's a perfectly fine movie to rewatch. It's not nearly as hard to rewatch as Iron Man 2. But I just, right now, I feel comfortable leaving it right there, because, like, Loki, I didn't think was the most amazing thing either, but I did think that Loki successfully, I thought it utilized the format of the Disney Plus series wonderfully, even though it wasn't entirely my thing. So I feel pretty comfortable putting that right there. I'll watch Hawkeye over Iron Man 2 any day. So I feel actually like really good about that ranking. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is incorporate the Captain America trilogy. And my ranking of the Captain America trilogy is Civil War. You're going to see me make all kinds of typos, and it's okay, because I'm trying to focus on this video for you. My ranking is Civil War, Winter Soldier, and Captain America, the First Avenger. Look, I think Civil War is the best. I think Captain America, the Winter Soldier is second best. And the First Avenger, some days, I think Captain America, the First Avenger is better than Iron Man. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that when I saw Iron Man, I was 17 years old. And when I saw this type of character, I was amazed by him. I wanted to be him. I was arrogant in my own life. I wanted to be a rich playboy, and I also wanted to be really smart. And I just thought he was really cool. As I get older, I find myself wanting to be more like Steve Rogers. So I think most people agree with this too, but Captain America in general is absolutely 100% the better handled character and better handled trilogy in the MCU. And that's why, we lean more towards Captain America when we talk about the movies. And so that's why this ranking looks like this. I feel like that's a pretty obvious thing. But I will give Iron Man, on this day of this ranking, Iron Man is going to take the lead over First Avenger. First Avenger over WandaVision is interesting. I think I'm going to... I think I'm actually going to put WandaVision above Captain America. Because the more that I've thought about and rewatched these Disney Plus shows, I find the most appreciation for WandaVision. Not so much the others. But right now, I'm going to leave it like that, and we'll see how it goes. All right, we're going to finish the big three here, and let's talk about Thor. So 100%, Thor Ragnarok is my favorite Thor film. Thor by Kenneth Branagh. I do feel like it's an underappreciated film. I really do. But also, it's not like I'm going to fight to the death over it. And then Thor the Dark World, I think, is maybe one of the worst. Maybe the worst Marvel Marvel movie ever. So I'm going to, let's see here. I think I like Thor right below Moon Knight and right above Loki. I think that's pretty comfortable because I actually like Loki a lot in the first Thor movie, and I like to see. I think it's obvious anytime Loki is with Thor, that's better than when Loki's on his own. And plus, like the TVA stuff, any any sort of like a massive concept, especially in Phase Four, any Phase Four concept, I think as time goes on, we're gonna realize that like Phase Four was the ugly like stepchild of the MCU. I really do. I don't think they have it quite figured out, or at least it doesn't come across they have it quite figured out the way that they had the direction of the other phases. The direction of Phase 4 seems to sort of be all over the place with these big concepts. In general, I'm not as interested in, say, Eternals. I'm not that interested in learning about these beings that have been here the whole time and why they haven't intervened, because it starts to recontextualize everything I've come to know without really the follow through. Oh, hit my mic. Like, I didn't really feel like it did a great job of incorporating them into the big picture. And even since Eternals came out, they haven't really incorporated the Celestials and like how Earth responded to the Celestial being born on Earth. Like, all that stuff goes unanswered. So we're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks right now. And it's really hard to tell. Like, we're in the middle of it. So it's just hard to tell. So it's not like something I'm holding against them yet. But right now it is a concern. And Loki with the TVA, I feel like the TVA and how they haven't really answered for Kang the Conqueror yet, it's just hard to say. But I know that I had a great time with Thor, and I like seeing Thor and Loki together. And right now I'm just high on Thor. Ragnarok, I think, was an amazing reinvention for the character the way that Winter Soldier was. I think the rewatchability of Ragnarok is higher than Winter Soldier. I think it's below Civil War, just because how can you compete with Civil War? It's very hard. So yeah, and like I said, Dark World is just gonna fit right there. So let's kind of rewind the clock to Phase 1, and we will include Incredible Hulk, and we'll just go on and get this out of the way. I guess over the past couple of years, we've had people come out of the woodwork and defend this movie. The movie's still fine, and it really doesn't do anything. I mean, they incorporated General Ross. They incorporated in multiple movies. They incorporated Abomination and Shang-Chi, but it doesn't really change how we feel about this movie. You know, they incorporate events that happened in Age of Ultron more, and WandaVision, and even in Doctor Strange 2. And so, like, Age of Ultron has a bigger legacy than Incredible Hulk does. And so I'm going to put Incredible Hulk right above The Dark World. The chemistry between Edward Norton and Liv Tyler is abysmal. I think their relationship sucks. Like, genuinely sucks. And yeah, I'll just put it right behind Iron Man 2. I'm more entertained by Iron Man 2. So I'm just going to put Incredible Hulk right there. What's the next movie? Okay, let's just go on and do the Avengers, shall we? So my favorite Avengers film, hands down, is Infinity War. I'm pretty sure it's the Marvel movie that I've watched the most. And I'll talk more about that later. So Avengers Endgame is my second favorite. And I think I'm going to put that right under Ragnarok and above Winter Soldier. So the Avengers movie is a movie that I always go back and forth on. And I rewatched it recently for the 10th anniversary. And one thing that I've been taking for granted is how well written it is. I mean, the character work and the relationships and all of that stuff is so well written. The Joss Whedon stock has fallen so hard over the past few years, so hard. But the Avengers movie, I feel like I haven't, over the years, given it enough credit. So the way that I feel like Civil War sort of like rockets over the Winter Soldier, I feel like the Avengers needs to be right above Iron Man and maybe right below the Winter Soldier. So I'll put it up there. I think that's a little bit higher than I'm used to ranking it. Just so you know, it might be normal to you guys that I put it there, but you know, I don't always give it enough credit. Age of Ultron is a movie that I feel like the best Age of Ultron stuff has actually appeared in other movies. I think it's watchable for sure, but it just 100% doesn't work at the same time entirely. And all of the characters post Age of Ultron have just absolutely flourished. Like, there's nothing that comes out of this movie, or there's no reason to watch this movie because this has the greatest MCU thing in it, if that makes sense. So I'm going to put it right now, I'm going to put it right below Loki and above Iron Man 3. I feel good about that. All right, so what's next? We have all the Iron Man ranks. Guardians of the Galaxy. So, Guardians of the Galaxy is one of my favorite MCU movies, period. I'm going to put this right above WandaVision. If it'll help me. All right, let's switch. Why is it being aggravating? Right above WandaVision. This means a whole lot to me. I remember when I first saw this trailer, I didn't know anything like most of the general audience. But the trailer had me smiling from ear to ear. I just knew it was going to be one of my favorite movies. And when I sat down in the theater to watch it, I had a grin from ear to ear. Loved every bit of it. I find it super emotional, super funny. I love Rocket. He's one of my favorite characters in the entire MCU. And it's just a phenomenal film. It's a great movie to watch outside of the MCU, honestly. Just to put on. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, however, is a different story. And Brando loves to make fun of me about this movie because leading up to it, I mean, all the hype from Guardians 1, I had the, there's no way in hell Guardians 2 can be bad take. And there are podcasts where I probably just went on a diatribe arguing with Jay because Jay was a little bit more indifferent on the trailer and the build up to this film. And I would just go on and say, yeah, there's no way this is going to be bad. This is going to be awesome, blah, 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 blah. Just hyping the shit out of it. And it's one of the most disappointing experiences I've ever had in watching an MCU movie. Upon rewatch, I like it okay. I liked it better on rewatch, but still, there's a lot of it that doesn't work for me. I find the plot to just be meandering, uninteresting. This is when I really started to get annoyed with the Guardians and the MCU in general, just always going for the joke and giving me moments when I didn't want to laugh. I mean, I feel like the Pac-Man, the fight at the end between Star-Lord and Ego, and when he just turns into Pac-Man in the middle of the fight, I literally was like, I don't want to joke here. I remember just audibly being like, stop trying to make me laugh. It was really annoying. So I'm going to put Guardians Volume 2 right over Iron Man 2 and right below Hawkeye. And I think what's doing that too, there's a couple of emotional scenes in Hawkeye that I think really work. When he's talking to his son and he can't hear him and Kate Bishop is translating. Also, just Kate Bishop in general is a huge standout for me. I'm a huge Haley Steinfeld fan. And none of what the characters are doing in Guardians 2 overshadow, I think, a lot of that stuff. For me personally. And also, there's so many side characters in Guardians that they introduced that I actually don't really have any fandom for. Like Mantis, Nebula. I think there's a whole group of Nebula stands out there that exist. I don't care about Nebula at all. Even like Groot. I mean, he was just kind of a meme in this movie. There's a couple times when Groot works when he's with Rocket. If he's not with Rocket, then he's a toy made by Hasbro. He's a meme. So, I mean, I love Groot in the first movie, but at the same time, let's be real here. Yeah, he's cute and adorable, and that's that. What's next after that? Should I have pulled up a list? I probably should have. I don't want to miss anything. All right, so we need to find a place for the 2 Ant-Man movies now. Okay, so Ant-Man, I think, is one of the best origin movies, and I think it's genuinely hilarious. And Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 is the most, like, nothing sequel in the MCU. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I never have to watch that movie again. I just think it is so inconsequential and just not nearly as good as the first. I kind of feel the same way about Guardians 2 as I feel about Ant-Man and the Wasp. It was such a letdown compared to the original. But Ant-Man, especially because Ant-Man has so much of the same story beats, and on paper it looks very similar to Iron Man as an origin story, and it is a cookie cutter origin story. But I just think that it's like so funny, and Scott Lang in general, the work that Paul Rudd does in it is so good, and I love just the visual aspects of it. And the language, the visual language of this movie definitely is incorporated in other movies too, and it means a lot to the MCU, I think, this movie. So I'm gonna put Ant-Man right above. I'm gonna put Ant-Man right below First Avenger and above Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think it's really good. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I really don't care about at all, and I'll put it. I feel like I would rather watch Iron Man 2 than Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I'm not gonna be that mean, and I'll put it right behind Guardians 2. Okay, let's see what's going on next. All right, we got to do Doctor Strange. So, upon rewatch, and I've seen Doctor Strange a total of like 5 times, I think it is quite good, actually. I'm going to put it right above First Avenger and right below WandaVision. I think it's actually wonderful. It does have a lackluster villain, but like I said, I'll bring up the villain every now and then in these rankings, but it's really about the title character here. So I think out the gate, Doctor Strange is really solid. And talk about the visual identity of that movie and how hyped we were for that character in Infinity War. I just think it has a lot going for it. All right, let's do Multiverse of Madness. I just reviewed this film. I do find it to be low tier. I think that conceptually, it didn't handle the multiverse even nearly as interesting as Loki did, or even Spider-Man No Way Home. And Wanda stole a movie from him. I'm going to put Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness right now, right above Age of Ultron. I think that it actually fits quite nice right beside Iron Man 3, because Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I feel like that's a great conversation to have right next to Shane Black's Iron Man 3. Because the thing that everybody says about Iron Man 3 is that it works just better as a Shane Black movie than it does an Iron Man movie. And I feel like Sam Raimi, it's a better Sam Raimi superhero movie than it is a Doctor Strange movie. I feel like you can say that. But also, I don't know. I feel like I would rather watch Iron Man 3 sometimes over Multiverse of Madness. I'm gonna leave Doctor Strange right here. I do like that, and it kind of goes back to what I said in the review. I was surprised that I like Thor more than I like Multiverse of Madness. I feel like this is probably where I differ the most from my audience, because I feel like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is a movie that people are gonna like. They're just gonna like more than me, and that's fine. I don't really know what else on this list is obviously like that, but that's okay. Right now, Multiverse of Madness, it might change upon rewatch. It might change when I'll probably do this list again later on in the year, but that's where I'm at with it right now. You know? All right, let's do Spider-Man movies. So, No Way Home, the more I've thought about it, the more I've watched it, the moments are incredible. The reality of having all 3 Spider-Man in a movie, incredible. Is the plot a little silly at times? Yes. And almost in like a Wonder Woman 84 sort of way. But at the same time, it's an incredible Spider-Man story. And as a fan of these movies for 20 years, I think it delivered. And it's hella entertaining. And it goes to the top. I think it fits right above Iron Man and right below the Avengers for me. And I think that's a little bit lower than I had it on the original list. Maybe I should pull that up real quick. Let's see here. Where was it? See, okay, I just kind of spoiled that list, but that's okay. Yeah, it's a little bit lower, but that's okay. It's still in the top, what, 7? The next best Spider-Man movie, I think, is probably Homecoming. I think that Vulture is a better villain than Mysterio. And I just think that it really was super fresh when I was worried about it being fresh. And I think I'll put it right above Iron Man, honestly. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to put it right below Iron Man. I'm going to put it right below. Where did I do it on the other list? It was above Ragnarok on the other list. Yeah, these movies have fallen a little bit. I'll put Spider-Man over Guardians and below Iron Man. All right, so Far From Home is a movie that I like a lot. The moments in it are incredible. I think the visuals are incredible. I actually think Mysterio was great in the second half of the movie. Far From Home is a movie I like a lot, actually. And sometimes I find myself watching it over Homecoming. But I'm going to put it right above First Avenger, right below Doctor Strange. But I could definitely find myself watching Far From Home from a lot of the there's just a lot of moments that I find incredible in it. But all right, what are we missing here? It's time to put Black Panther in. Black Panther. Look, Black Panther is incredible. And this is the first time I'm sort of going to bring up the MCU's greatness. Talk about transcending the genre. Black Panther was a movement. It transcends the genre. It is an incredible origin story. It is an incredible debut. It's, I guess what I should say is solo film debut for Chadwick Boseman. It's amazing. One of the highest grossing movies of all time. It's a movie that, you can't just like, you're more likely to ask somebody, hey, have you seen Black Panther? And they say yes. The music, you're going to get a yes when you ask that question more than you're going to get a yes when you've asked somebody if they've seen Doctor Strange. Black Panther is a movie everybody's seen. Doctor Strange isn't. Not that that's the end all be all. But when we talk about greatness and where the MCU not only just fits within itself, but where it fits in cinema in general, Black Panther transcends so many of these movies. And it's incredible. It really, really is. And insanely rewatchable. Great villain. Does the third act look bad? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But it's an incredible movie. And I'll put it right there at number 3. Just going to jump straight up to number 3 here. Captain Marvel, I think, is the only one remaining from the Infinity Saga. And it's a movie I don't really like that much. It's fine. But that's the thing about the MCU movies, is that they're all like good to great. So I don't think any of them are like legitimately bad. Captain Marvel, I don't really care for though. I'm gonna put it right beneath Hawkeye, and right above Guardians 2. And I don't think that movie, the way that Black Panther, I mean, they both made $1 billion within a year of each other. But the fandom for Brie Larson and the desire and the want and need for more Brie Larson as Captain Marvel in the MCU, it's not quite as big as, how we felt about Black Panther, And there's a lot of similarities into how those characters were introduced. And like Captain Marvel, I don't even think Black Panther is great in another movie, in Civil War. Captain Marvel was fine in Endgame. It wasn't really about her, to be fair. But I mean, couldn't you say that about Black Panther and Civil War? It was just better done, and I just feel like a better beloved character and then a better solo film. One's a case of how it works, and one's a case of how it doesn't. And even the scrolls, like I'm not even like really attached to the scrolls. Just like a lot of elements that are fine. And man, I'm all over the place with my mouse. Have I done all of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So we should have 28 titles, right? How do we have 33? How about... Oh, I'm looking at the wrong list. Uh... Okay, we have 30. How do we have 30? I counted 23 movies and then the 5 series, right? Oh, I incorporated Multiverse of Madness. Okay, so let's just do phase 4 and then we'll wrap it all up here. Okay, so Black Widow. Black Widow I think is fine. I love Florence Pugh so much. Black Widow on its own is my kind of movie. It's the Jason Bourne of the franchise, and that's just something I respond to so much. Taskmaster was a little underwhelming, but I love Florence Pugh. I love ScarJo in the movie. Third act was a little cartoony, but I do like this movie. And I do think that there was some authorship, even though it couldn't be fully explored. I'm going to put it right above Thor, actually, and below Moon Knight. The sort of like boots on the ground aspect that I love about the MCU. I feel like First Avengers, one I like better. Falcon and Winter Soldier's one I like a little bit better, but Black Widow's right there in that same company. Yeah, I like that. Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is a movie that I really, conceptually, I've responded to more than I have, like, say, Eternals and even Multiverse of Madness. I love The Legend of the Ten Rings. I love what they do with the Mandarin. And I like Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. I really do. The third half is... Oh, I'm sorry, the third half. The second half is bonkers. It's a lot of fun. It looks terrible. The third act of Shang-Chi, I think, looks so bad. So I'm going to put it right beneath Black Widow because I do think a lot of people think Shang-Chi is a better movie than Black Widow, but I'm gonna... If you had to ask me which one I wanted to watch at any given moment, it might be hard, but I think the greater whole is Black Widow. Did I say anything with that sentence? But I'll put it right above Thor as well. I feel like that's something that could change over time. But so Eternals. Look, I don't hate this movie. I don't think it works at all. I really don't. It's gonna be right next to Captain Marvel, I think. I'm gonna put it right below Captain Marvel and right above Guardians 2. I'm gonna put it right next to its celestial brother in Guardians 2 because it deals with the Celestials. I, I, they're both ensemble movies, and I feel like the ensemble of the Eternals, I feel like the story and how they worked on a lot of the relationships with the characters was a little bit more compelling, even though I'm not nearly as emotionally attached to any of these characters like I was in Guardians 2. Eternals, I also think is too long, but also if you make it shorter, you sacrifice even more of what they do with the characters. It looks fine. It looks good when they're not incorporating CGI, but anytime, it just doesn't work nearly as well as I think people wanted to and they intended. And so, like, I don't hate the movie or anything, but it's just not. It has also like so little rewatchability. It's crazy. Like I never think about watching that movie. Druig and was it Makari and Druig, I think, or were the standouts, and they're like 1/10 of the movie. So that's unfortunate. I think I have everything. So let's tally it all up real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I should have 33. Perfect. So I'll just tell you where What If is. What If is like... What If is on either side of the Eternals. It's fine. It's completely inconsequential. It's just like a fun, neat little exercise and experiment, and it's something that you can do because we have Disney Plus. But also at the same time, it's like just not a whole lot to take away from it, you know. So one episode utilized Doctor Strange and the multiverse better than his own movie did, but overall, What If is, you know, I'm just indifferent. Like, it's fine. Um, Guys, this is it. I cannot believe I came up with it this fast. I'll just read through it. We'll start at the bottom. Number 33, Thor: The Dark World. 32, The Incredible Hulk. 31 is Iron Man 2. 30 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. 29, Guardians 2. 28, Eternals. And just throw What If in there. Captain Marvel's 27. Hawkeye 26. Iron Man 3 25. Age of Ultron 24. Multiverse of Madness 23. Loki 22. Thor's 21. Shang-Chi is 20th. Black Widow is 19th. Moon Knight is 18th. Falcon and Winter Soldier 17th. Ant-Man is 16th. 15th is Captain America: First Avenger. 14 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Doctor Strange is 13. WandaVision 12. Guardians of the Galaxy is 11. Number 10, the top 10 rated MCU movies, according to me, are Spider-Man: Homecoming, Iron Man, Spider-Man: No Way Home, Avengers, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Avengers: Endgame, Thor: Ragnarok, Black Panther, Captain America: Civil War, and Avengers: Infinity War. Guys, that is my ranking of the entire MCU. I did it. That was fun. And it was a lot faster than the last time I did it. Where did I clock in here? 37. I shed an entire hour off of this little experiment here. This was fun. This is really good. I think the one thing that while I'm looking at it, the one thing that stands out to me as I read that off is I'm kind of surprised that Guardians isn't in my top 10. But I'm also just fine with my top 10. I wonder what people are going to not like. I didn't talk a whole lot about Endgame. I just, as a whole, I don't think it's I don't think it's the greatest whole, but obviously it's Endgame. Come on. Like, that's why it's up there. Thor Ragnarok, I find it extremely rewatchable, and there's a reason why we're compelled and propelled ourselves into a fourth Thor movie coming up here, and Ragnarok has a lot to do with that. I mean, who would have thought, going all the way back to the first Thor, that he would be the first one to have 4 movies? Yeah, I like the look of it. You know, a Disney Plus series didn't make the top 10. But that's okay. I don't think it needed to. Is it weird that No Way Home is above Iron Man? I don't think so. I really don't. And I would pull the villain card out for that. I would pull out. I just think historically Iron Man movies, they're just not. Iron Man is really good, but I just feel like it easily gets trumped by some of these others that achieve greatness in the way that. So Iron Man, I'm fine with it being in the top 10. It should be in the top 10, but at the same time, I don't really have a problem with movies that beat Iron Man in the top 10. You know what I mean? So yeah, is Guardians better than Homecoming? I don't know. I'm gonna say no. If you had asked me that question right after Spider-Man: Homecoming came out, I would probably say Guardians is better than Homecoming, but I'm gonna say no. I feel really good about this. I really do. So let's save it, and I will make this public through Moon Knight, and there we go, guys. Go to letterboxd.com/rewatchryan for all of my lists, including this one, and including the other one that I did right after No Way Home, because it is different. I'm kind of surprised at how different it is. Especially, I guess that one's more objective based on how I arrived to that list, and this one was more on the fly. But yeah, that's really interesting how that works. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Every Movie Ever. It's my ranking show. I love the idea of ranking every movie that I watch. So that's what this is, and I just have a lot of fun doing it, and I know that YouTube loves rankings, and YouTube loves the MCU, so I couldn't let the Multiverse of Madness happen. I couldn't let Moon Knight happen. without updating my list here. So I feel really good about it. Guys, if you haven't already, whether you're listening on the Watch Diary podcast or on the YouTube channel, check out all the other MCU content that I have going on right now. That includes Moon Knight and includes Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And that wraps up this portion. Thank you so much. Twitter and Instagram at RewatchRyan. Thank God for cold brew. I'm doing this one a little bit different. It's a lot easier though. Like if you're listening on the podcast, you're probably like, I'm doing this one a little bit different. This podcast, you know, I record the audio now on OBS, which is the software I use to stream, and I'm just starting and stopping every time I have a segment that I'm cutting out for YouTube. So it might not work the best for the audio experience, but also at the same time, it's probably not that big of a deal. So that's why I randomly just pimp out my Twitter and Instagram in the middle of a video, because I'm actually stopping the recording and starting another one. But it's not as seamless as it normally is, but why not? I'm trying to figure out my workflow and how I handle all this. So anyway, I'm here to spoil Doctor Strange 2, okay? This is the spoiler portion. You're an educated person. You know that if you haven't seen the movie, or if you don't care about being spoiled, wait, what? You know that if you haven't seen the movie, you shouldn't continue. You should only continue if you've watched the movie and don't care about being spoiled. Okay? Here we go. Let's talk about the Illuminati scene. Let me just say right now, out the gate, the most shocking moment for me was seeing John Krasinski as Reed Richards. Literally almost jumped out of my seat. The theater erupted. And I mentioned at the top of the show how something in the movie happened and somebody made a joke about how, like, John Krasinski is another actor and a thing. So John Krasinski said whatever line he said to Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. And then a guy just shouts in the theater, "Thanks, Jim." Not funny. Not funny. It's not. We all know him as Jim Halpert. We get it. The Office has been off the air for forever. It's been a rumor. It's been fan speculation. It's been theorized. We've moved on. John Krasinski's moved on. Shouting "Thanks, Jim" in the theater, not funny. You're a fucking dork. And that'll be my one F word for this video. YouTube is gonna flag it. Pissed me off. Because, again, that was the moment that the theater erupted the most. And then it was tainted immediately by this guy's awful joke. And he thought he was so funny and so cool. And it just, me and Nesso just threw our arms up. Like, he just completely ruined the moment. It was so annoying. But there was also the moment where John Krasinski appears in front of Wanda, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, John Krasinski's Reed Richards is really standing up against Wanda Maximoff. This is incredible. I just almost like threw my popcorn bucket in the air. I was so excited and so happy by that scene. That scene in general was awesome. So let's just talk about the Illuminati in general and what this means for fans and to fans. Right now, I can't tell if that was Kevin Feige's answer to our fan casting, or if that was Kevin Feige's actual casting John Krasinski as Reed Richards. Because the way that the scene plays out, obviously, is Wanda takes out all of them. So it really just comes down to how you think that the MCU is casting variants from here on out. Most of the Loki variants are not Tom Hiddleston. There's a couple that are in Loki, but not all of them are. The fact that in the same scene, they pulled Black Bolt from ABC's Inhumans. They didn't recast. They pulled Peggy Carter as Captain Carter. They didn't recast from What If. They didn't recast from Captain America. They didn't recast from the MCU. The fact that they obviously have Professor X in there as well. It would be weird if John Krasinski as Reed Richards was the one person that they didn't stick to, right? So we definitively got the casting of John Krasinski as Reed Richards, right? It would just be weird if he was the one actor that didn't stick when all of the others stick. So we'll see how that plays out. So I'm hoping, and that's where I'm at with it. I think they announced it, but also at the same time, I could see Kevin Feige being like, oh no, Reed Richards is actually Miles Teller. We just thought it would be funny for the fans, something, not actually Miles Teller, but so we'll see. But right now I'm banking on that was Reed Richards, that we're going to see in the Fantastic Four movie, John Krasinski. And so much fun. So much fun. So the rest of that scene was brutal. Every death in that scene shocked me and Ernesto. We were taken aback by it. It was awesome to see Maria Rambeau. I actually, in a weird way, was kind of disappointed that wasn't Monica Rambeau, based purely on, I just expected it coming off of WandaVision. And I didn't expect to see Maria Rambeau again. It was surprising. It wasn't what I expected. I thought it would have been Monica based on the fandom. I feel like the fandom for Monica has been built up and bigger than Maria, but it's fine. Not a big deal. Black Bolt, I was surprised because they actually made him like pretty cool. And also Kevin Feige has like literally never acknowledged that show before in Humans. So I'm really shocked that he did that, and I'm really annoyed that my lighting keeps changing in the camera, or it was, but anyway. Shocked by that. But I mean, that whole scene was shocking. And Professor X in it was really cool too. I really like seeing that cameo. A little underwhelmed by it though, but I think it's only because I'm so used to Charles Xavier not being like fan service, like integral to the story. And this is the first time I saw him not integral at all to the story. So I wish we got a little bit more, but there was also a really cool scene where he was in Wanda's mind, and that was pretty cool. So it wasn't nearly as, the fan service in this movie was just built differently than it was in No Way Home. And it wasn't a problem because not only were we teased about it, but it also was just like, that's how we expect the multiverse to be treated. Like, that was the multiverse done right, in my opinion. And it was the most fun to the MCU. And we got glimpses of that in the trailer. So that's why I thought this movie was going to be sort of a Captain America Civil War type event. But it wasn't, and that's fine. It all goes back to Wanda, but ultimately, I just felt like a lot of those characters even distracted me from Doctor Strange. You know, I just feel like Doctor Strange was so uninteresting in this movie and so sidelined that anybody could have come on screen and taken my attention away from it. Like, it's not like it's not like he was like fighting. He wasn't even like fighting for screen time. Like, I wasn't going back and forth between. That would have been fun. I wish Doctor Strange was as interesting as all the other characters were, but it wasn't, and that's unfortunate. Wanda taking all those people out. That's awesome. I mean, that's kind of the Wanda we've been wanting to see this entire time. It's not often that we get so much rich story from a character, like from a villain like this. I mean, we had a series that was developing, a 9-episode series that developed this villain before this movie, and it definitely worked to Wanda's benefit for sure, because she stole the show. And just seeing her come in and not be phased by any of it, it was amazing. I am a little shocked. This movie never needed to be. It would have been fun if it was, but it never needed to be the movie that involved the X-Men. A lot of this fan speculation that she was going to have some sort of play on No More Mutants. It would have been cool, but I didn't need it, and I didn't expect it necessarily. But I am surprised that there wasn't more of a... I'm surprised that her interaction with Professor X didn't lead to anything at all based on their comic book origins. Like, they barely really... Charles Xavier, when he shows up in the fight scene, when he goes, "Stop!" right before he enters her mind, that was one of the moments where the people in the theater laughed. Or he says, like, "Enough," or "Stop." and then Wanda stops what she's doing. She's about to kill somebody, I think is how it goes. And then people in the audience laughed at Professor X saying stop. And we were just like, what? That was one of the things that really, really bothered me because it ruined it. All that kind of stuff was happening during these like big moments that I was trying to stay invested in, and but it just didn't. It was fucking weird, man. It really, really was. So in terms of like phase 4, I said it in the raw reaction. Like right now, like phase 4 is weird. It feels like strange territory. It doesn't feel like phase 4 should technically have the most in common with phase 1, right? Not only are we introducing ourselves to a bunch of characters that we've never seen before, but phase 4 wants to introduce a lot of concepts that are really, really big, but they're different from movie to movie without really ever addressing or taking care of the concept that was introduced before it. Loki felt like a bigger, that scene in Loki with Kang, it felt like it had more impact on the multiverse than this movie did. Same with Spider-Man No Way Home. Like the stakes of the multiverse were there, but the stakes weren't really, it really was about Wanda. So it just was a weird movie. It felt like we were building up to, and we were finally going to, and we definitely explored the multiverse, finally. But it was done better in so many projects that didn't explore the multiverse. And like the Doctor Strange episode of What If. I mean, I felt like that explored the psyche a little bit more, and it's not, and I hate to be like this, but it doesn't, it was such a different story that it didn't build up to what we were going to see in Doctor Strange, to see from Doctor Strange, the way that WandaVision built up Wanda. You know, it's not the same. So right now, I don't know where phase 4 is. I just don't really I don't get it. And I'm not vibing with it. I'm not connecting with it the way that I wanted to. And Spider-Man No Way Home is the exception, obviously. Multiverse of Madness, I thought was going to be the first time we were back in familiar territory. You know, it was a comfort zone. We have two great characters that we know and love already, exploring a concept that was promised in the Infinity Saga, and I just don't really think it paid off. I think the main takeaways were Sam Raimi's authorship, that was also kind of taken from him because of how much of a Frankenstein's monster this movie was. So even that wasn't fully appreciated, because you can tell that Sam Raimi had his authorship, and then the studio messed with it. At least that's what it feels like. So sort of his spirit was taken from him in that way, and Wanda just steals it from steals the show. So there's probably a lot more than I'm forgetting. Also, this movie continues to further solidify post-credit scenes mean nothing. My lip is chapped, and it's really bothering me that you could have seen it the whole time. Post-credit scenes are nothing in the MCU. I watch them so that I can say that I've watched them, but I literally never, I don't care about them, ever. They're nothing. Is there anything else that I want to say about this movie? Yeah, Wanda's kids, the kid actors, whoever cast them, Sarah Halley Finn, who's in charge of the casting, she usually crushes it. I don't know if she casted those kids, but they're awful. They took me right out of WandaVision, and they took me right out of this movie. That's the thing. I don't have a connection to those kids. And I'm not going to rip into child actors, but like I just don't have any sort of connection to them. And so trying to find an appreciation for that storyline, I do, but also at the same time, it only goes so far. Because, like, when her kids are on screen, it makes me roll my eyes, and then I'm like, Wanda, who fucking cares about these kids? Another F bomb. Yeah, but I mean, that's just like a little thing. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just not attached to those kids at all. And yeah, I kind of feel like they kind of got out of exploring the multiverse on that montage where it's like them falling through the sky, and he turns into cubes, and he turns into paint, and he turns into a cartoon. That was like, I don't know. It was like, okay, well, that's now we can lead the movie saying that we explored the multiverse, and it's like, well, I mean, I guess, but it was a 19-second montage. You know what I mean? Strange seeing his other selves was a little fun. I mean, I thought the scene at the end with him and the dark Doctor Strange was cool, but then it gets a little comedy horror-esque, and I wasn't quite sure what to think about Zombie Strange because it was a little silly. And I know that nobody needs to say these concepts were introduced in What If. Like, I know, but how I felt about the tone of it and the vibe of it right then and there, and Marvel Comics has done the zombie. I know, but I don't know that it worked entirely. So anyway, that's just the common through line. And that's just how I'm going to wrap it up, because I'm just not really sure I've bought into all the concepts and that but anyway, I know that Wanda was awesome, and I know that it looked really good. It really, really did. America Chavez, I was excited for her character going into the movie, and I was excited for her at the beginning of the movie, but she kind of just gets sidelined in the entire second half. Like, I kind of forget all about her, and then she comes back up at the end. I expected more from her. I didn't really fall in love with that character or anything, so America Chavez, I'm just kind of indifferent. And that'll wrap it up. I kind of petered out at the end, so I think that's a sign that this podcast is done and that this video is done. There's probably going to be more Doctor Strange content coming soon. I don't know if I'm going to talk about this with Nesto maybe on a video, but we'll see. It'll come back around for sure, especially when Thor and Love and Thunder comes out here in a couple months. Thor and Love and Thunder. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Watch Diary. As far as I know, the next piece of content that comes out after Watch Diary is my Never Before Seen with Brando on The Fifth Element. We're recording that tomorrow, and then it comes out on the 9th, I believe, for its 25th anniversary. And stay tuned for that. It'll be on the YouTube channel. I don't know if I'm going to post the podcast yet. I still haven't figured out when and how I want to post podcasts versus, I'll figure it out, though. Guys, thank you so much. Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, @RewatchRyan. I appreciate it. I'll see you on the